Good morning, good evening, good afternoon for the different time zones, everybody who ever joined. So I do not have to give any preface of what exactly that we are going to talk about because there have been n number of emails being sent, and we of course know what the title is, and it's why first party data is the future. Before talking about first party data, so we all know whoever has joined the meeting today and whoever that we are talking to is of course somebody who has been severely or massively or least affected by the privacy updates or by the remarkable iOS updates and several other GDPR compliances, etc., etc. So we have also had seen agencies or saying that they lost clients during the last 2 to 3 years after these privacy updates and all of that. So meanwhile, we have adapted to the big futuristic brands saying, hey guys, this is going to be the future. And you, of course, have to start collecting your own user behavior data and, of course, not rely on any ad platforms like Google, Facebook, etc., etc. So these are the futuristic brands, and slowly we are starting to see newsletters. We started seeing blogs. We started seeing webinars saying, "Hey, use first-party data." And to talk about the future, we want, of course, the futuristic minds to talk about it. So when I say futuristic minds, and that's our panelists for the day. So it's Luke, who's a co-founder of Lead Widget and a leading marketing agency who is helping a lot of e-commerce marketers and B2B marketers, lead gen marketers drive towards the future. And of course, we have Jeff Mayer, who is again a founder of Insightshare, again a consultant who is helping the marketers to drive in higher ROIs, I think, in the last few years. So welcome both of you. Hi, Luke. Hi, Jeff. I hope you're doing well.
Thanks for having us.
Great. So likewise, first thing that I wanted to start, initially my first question to both of you is that what was the moment or what was the time you thought that there's something going off with the marketing campaigns itself or the performance itself? Were there a moment when the client said, hey, there's something wrong, my ROIs is, I've never seen my ROIs go this down? Or it could be about the audience match rates, or it could be about the cost of purchase going really high. So what was the moment you thought, God, there is something miserable, I don't know what it is happening? So what was that moment?
So I think Jeff can resonate with this because Jeff and I go, I don't know, a good distance back at this point, past almost 6 years now. We've been kind of in the space working on the identity resolution side, so kind of staying abreast of a lot of the privacy changes, a lot of the different security, data security issues that were coming down from the original Cambridge Analytics type scandal to just unloaded a swath of things that came federally and from individual states. And so we kind of saw us coming, but really the first thing that really teed us off collectively was we had some agencies, some pretty high level agencies that had really close connections with Meta's Facebook ad platform at the time. And they were I would call them insiders to what Meta was doing. And because Meta kind of made the first, as a result of their scandals, they kind of were forced to make the first steps in doing something. And so they took a pretty hard swing, and they let a lot of their insiders kind of know ahead of time. Maybe 2020 was that? Would you say that's right, Jeff? Around then, yeah. We started hearing from some of these players that that Facebook was going to be making some pretty big changes due to iOS, and that they should start looking seriously for an alternative to what was going to happen. And they referred directly to seeking out first party vendors or agencies in that area. So because they told them, kind of in summary, that we're not going to be able to help you anymore. So.
Yeah.
I think to Luke's point too is we really saw this coming when they announced iOS 14 was coming, and as we all know, that was really the big driver for us because we're primarily in the US market. So GDPR for us was not something we were cognizant of it, but it wasn't something we were really worried about from our standpoint, just on where our focus was. But iOS 14 was a big deal. And so we anticipated that coming, and it wasn't going to be, is this going to be bad? It's going to be, how bad is it going to be? And as we all know, in the US market, Facebook basically lost the ability to track about 50% of their audience, not only identify, but also the behavior. And that's a big hit on the Facebook algorithm, obviously. So I think we kind of saw this coming. They kicked the can down the road, for a half a release. So when 14.5 got released is when the floodgates opened. What was interesting is that, to Luke's point, a lot of the agencies we're working with were giving us the heads up that the folks from Meta were saying, hey, you gotta go find your own audiences, basically. And that's really where Luke and I come from, is identity resolution, third-party audiences, second-party audiences, et cetera. So we knew this was coming. And when it hit, the interesting thing is that for a lot of people, it didn't hurt them right away. It just took a while for that Facebook pixel to erode, right? And I think for as many people that were ready for this, a lot of people just stuck their head in the sand and said, well, I'll just move budget away from Facebook and go to something like TikTok, right? So here we are a year and a half later. And I think the market has finally caught up, where they realize for a lot of these brands, the audience is on Facebook. You got to reach them there. And now it's, how do we solve that? How do we solve that problem? And then the other thing I'd say too is that when this all happened, Facebook came out with CAPI, which is a conversion API. So I think a lot of ad buyers were like, oh, it's going to be fine. We'll just hook that up and we won't lose a whole lot. The problem is that even when you're doing data server side, you're still playing within the same Facebook rules. So there's data erosion, data loss, et cetera, et cetera. The other interesting thing I'll say too is that we brought on a few clients that also advertise internationally, and so they're facing a lot of the same problems, obviously, with privacy and GDPR. So it became a problem of ours, I would say probably a year ago, where we started facing more with clients that had dealt with GDPR. So
Right. Like exactly adding to the both of you. So we happened to be on a call with Google's audience specialist, I think quite a while ago, and they put it in a really interesting picture. They said after all these privacy updates, say it could be iOS, and there's also Chrome phasing out third-party tracking in 2023 or early 2024. So they have been preparing and saying that they say that ad platforms, say let us Google or Facebook, they're all adapting towards automation. So there's no more pixel tracking or Chrome tracking or third-party tracking. They're all moving towards automation. So for the ad platforms to automate its audience targeting, there is a need of a high volume of accurate user behavior data. So does the media buyers or the ad platforms have the accurate user behavior data in the privacy-driven world? Of course not. So the Google has actually, I think it's in a year since the good thing, Google has started insisting, start collecting a user behavior data, start collecting first-party data, so that its algorithm can learn the user behavior data, and they can target the right audience at the right time. So the more the data that we feed in, the better the algorithm can actually target the right audience. So that's exactly how you guys actually opened it. So when you actually started interacting with your clients, how do you think that they adapted for this change? Did they actually understand what was happening with the algorithms, or did they actually realize that the way the algorithm is operating has changed or something like that? So how did you adapt to the change? Was it so quick? Was it easy? Were you able to pick it up? How was it actually?
That's a great question. I would say it's been a journey for most companies. I think they were slow to adapt. They knew they had a problem. Again, we saw a lot of clients just move, oh, we'll just go to a different ad platform. Mm-hmm. And again, they ended up coming back to Facebook because that's where their best audience was, and they knew it. So there's a couple of things. One is that Facebook said, well, just go very broad on your top of funnel targeting, right? Mm-hmm. And I think the point what people started to realize is they thought that the Facebook algorithm was broken. It wasn't broken. The problem was that it was starving for data. It was getting 50%, at least in the US, 50% less data, less indicators than it had got before. So it just was not working as well. That's why it couldn't scale small audiences, for retargeting, et cetera. So once they started to understand that, it's like, okay, now how do we deal with that problem? Well, again, back to CAPI. That was the first thing. I mean, think of things like vendors like Shopify and so forth. They just had these plugins, WooCommerce, just plugins that you could connect CAPI and away you go. So people would just connect that and then forget about it, and then wonder why their results weren't improving, maybe marginally, but not certainly not back to where they were, pre iOS 14.5. So you had this emergence of, okay, that's not working. The second thing that we saw happening is that people were more concerned about the attribution side of this than the actual underlying problem. So you had all these attribution solutions coming out. We all know who they are. And what people realized is, after going through 3 or 4 months of testing and running those and paying a bunch of money, that it didn't really get them much closer to making better decisions, right? Because the underlying audience data was not accurate and was not scalable. So that was this kind of the second evolution of trying to solve this problem. I think we're in the third evolution now, where you have companies out there that have figured out, one in particular, obviously with Customer Labs, they figured out how to send better data back to Facebook to make the algorithm work better. I think other solutions out there focus on an algorithm that works outside of Facebook. Like, we can do this better, and then we'll just use that as an audience and match it back to Facebook, which is not a very good solution. It just, for a whole host of reasons, it doesn't work, especially if you're a smaller account. So that's, I think, the evolution. And I think where we're at now is people realize, A, my audience is at Facebook. B, I need to be able to scale beyond what I'm doing now. And C, I need to decrease acquisition and improve ROAS. And I think the market's actually perfect. Finally have come around to understand, the actual problem.
Brilliant. Also, I remember once Luke and I were in a call, we were discussing how actually marketers perceive first-party data. So Luke, can you please explain, when you say first-party data, or when you say your clients or the fellow marketers around, hey, start collecting first-party data, what was your first reaction? Like, can you please tell me that? That was a really good question.
So a lot of first-party data understanding revolves around what marketers already know about their customer, right? So the information that they either are receiving directly from a form fill or some kind of opt-in, to the information that they already have on their customer in the CRM, and just connecting those two elements, and then kind of assuming that encompasses the totality of their first-party data ecosystem. But the reality of first-party data in the world that we live in is, one, people don't realize that first-party data is theirs. Like, they have ownership of it. So, yes, there's opt-in prompts and things like that, and opt-out prompts, and those are serious in the sense that people should pay attention to them and maintain blacklists. But the reality of what people can do, I don't think has been quite fully understood by most marketers. Because when we talk to marketers, they continually go back to, when we have that first party discussion, it goes back to that same thing, the known users, the known information. And the reality is, we have the ability now to take the anonymous users and actually still make matches to the ad platforms, the main ones, Google and Facebook especially, and vastly outpace the ad platform's ability to build a full-size audience. So we can, now we're seeing double and triple the audience, growth from being able to match first-party data to the platform versus just retargeting with the native pixel or the native cookie. So, and as we continue to see things like Google, Google's kicked the can down the road over and over again with the cookie. I mean, they've already made these same privacy changes with Android devices, and those are rolling out, and they're kind of in waves. I think that was part of, to Jeff's point, with the last question, was we saw a lot of people struggle to adopt this early and upfront because there was like a rollout. It kind of phased in for different people at different times. So, you kind of kept hearing the chatter. Man, you could go to Reddit or Facebook groups and you'd hear 18 different stories on what's really happening on the platform, but it always came back to, oh, it's an algorithm thing, and you got to do this now. But the reality is first party data and being able to not just track the anonymous user and the known user, but being able to unify that data, store that data, and then deploy that data whenever you need it in an audience that you can rely on. That's the future. So, excuse me.
Amazing.
And to do that in a privacy compliant way, I think is the other
Yes.
piece there,
Yeah.
which is huge.
Brilliant. I think we could say owning the data is the new fuel, new oil, or
Yes.
anything for that matter, which when we say first party data, to again reiterate, it's both your known website visitors and of course your major of it is anonymous and anonymous website visitors. That's brilliant. That's brilliant. Followed up. I think the last 6 7 months you must have deployed the first party audience strategies. Can you please tell me some of the optimizations that you have already done and the results or benefits that you have seen after deploying first party data? So we'll have in a clear view what would the marketers get when they deploy the first party data.
Sure. Yeah, I can jump in. What we've seen in the last, really last 12 to 14 months by deploying this specific solution is it really goes in about 3 different phases, right? The first thing is that we're providing better quality to Facebook. It's very easy to measure. You look at your event match quality score, and a lot of times we start with clients that are their data level or rating is good or poor. They've kind of moved away from a numbering system to more of a, red light, green light, yellow light. Point is that that's really the first indicator. When you see that all turn green for all their different pixel events, you know that, okay, we're feeding better data to Facebook. What happens secondly is that when you look at your retargeting, your retargeting audiences, they will double and triple within about 30 days. Again, it makes sense. We're tracking more people. We're sending better data to Facebook. They can match them better. And so now your retargeting audiences went from super small to now big. So when you start running those retargeting campaigns, because you're running the same ad with the same budget to more people, your CPA drops by anywhere we've seen from 30 to, we've seen as much as 90%. I'm not saying that's the norm, but a minimum 30% is what we typically see in CPA. So that's just your middle of the funnel, retargeting and so forth. And then the third thing we see is that because we're sending better data to Facebook, now when we run lookalike audiences, that's the third thing that we do for top of the funnel we lower that cost per acquisition again by usually 30 to 40%. So all this flows downhill to where we see anywhere from a 40 to 50% improvement in ROAS overall. And so it's a pretty straightforward process in terms of how you get there. It's very measurable every step of the way. And what I always tell clients is that it takes about 90 days really to fully realize the gains. You're going to get some gains right away with retargeting, but the long-term game is when you can capture 10 to 15% more revenue that you'd never be able to get under just running straight Facebook ads.
Brilliant.
That's the win for you. That's the return on investment.
I think
and that's what we've seen with our clients.
Yeah, that's to adding to what we said. There was a recent case study which was released by Google. They say that retargeting our own website visitors has 3x more conversion rate when compared to the regular or generic top funnel campaigns. So that was in a recent case study of Google itself that retargeting website visitors is 1,000 times better than actually doing the regular interest-based audiences. Look, do you have something to add here? So do you have any use cases to showcase?
Primarily what we've focused on to date has been e-com and B2C, but the reality of the advent of this, our ability to track effectively, store, and to use these first party data audiences across these platforms is that now we can take and expand our reach. So really anybody that, for say Facebook, because that's really the big one that we see right now, especially until Google makes their big change. So Facebook being able to create a segment or an audience that outlasts the 28 days before you lose that data on the native pixel. So that alone is huge. So take that and imagine anybody with a longer life cycle, a sales cycle. That could be B2B, that could be lead gen, but whatever it is, the reality of what we have the ability to do now with that system, that solution, is now we can take that one-to-one messaging on a B2B and scale that out. Now we can take that lead gen opportunity and we can follow that, follow that journey. So this really opens up some doors. Like I said, B2B or B2C e-com, it's a great solution. We've been seeing some great results. It's very similar, if not the same as Jeff's. It's on average, we're going to see around a 10% lift in revenue each month on campaigns using these audiences, and we're able to retarget because, again, middle of funnel has been dead for a while because of this implosion of data on Facebook. And so being able to open up that middle of funnel retargeting is huge and really allows for an increase in conversions, which is what marketers used to rely on. And now we're just throwing that away or know that that's not an option, or assume that's not an option anymore, and are just focused on broad-based targeting.
Yep. So there was a quick, I think, like with both of your results, I think we have a quick comparison between Facebook pixel data and first party data, right? So Pixel is actually, Pixel discards the data, say in 28 days or etc. And first party data, it's there forever when the marketers start. All right, going towards the towards the end. So let's talk about, we have, performance max campaigns like Google says, which is the future. Facebook says shopping advantage, shopping plus is the future. It's again, both of them are going towards automation. So what do you have talk about performance max and advantage plus, like how they say that's the future, is it? So do you have something to add for the marketers out there?
Yeah, I think the first question is why are they doing this, right? And I think it's pretty clear that now that the data is not nearly as good as it used to be, they got to find different ways through modeling and so forth to expand audiences, right? So how do we capitalize on that? The way we capitalize on that is that I think what people get confused about is when they say first party data, they think of an email list of customers they just upload and create a similar audience or create a lookalike audience off of that. The problem is that when you just upload identities, you're not uploading any behavior. So you're asking Facebook, for example, not only to match who those people are, but then go back and start to look at and optimize around behavior that may or may not have happened in the last 12 months, right? So I think it puts us in a great position because, again, what we do, what our system allows is to not only track, individuals, who they are, but also the behavior in those signals. So I think the ability, I know that by providing the signals better than they can do themselves is just going to allow these other new deals to optimize quicker and be more efficient and basically lower our cost over time.
Yeah, just to add to that, I would say that, what we understand about machine learning and artificial intelligence is really, it's about relevancy, so recency of data, the variety, veracity, volume, all those factors that attribute to being able to train a machine. That's at the end of the day, that's what the algorithm is. And to model effectively means that Facebook and Google need the real-time data feed. So in order to not just pull an email and try and say, okay, here's Joe Smo and here's his profile, let's try to match his profile against all these other people to build out a lookalike. Well, now we're being able to feed real-time website behavior as well as signals of behavior into these platforms, which allows them to model out effectively when we talk about being able to look at the greater group of people who looks just like them and who is the next person to really at bat. So that's the advantage we're seeing. So Advantage Plus and Performance Max are just their you know, their way of trying to set apart campaigns for the future, and when people are going to have to do more of this. And if you look at all their development material or their developer material, you'll see it's all about first party data feeding into those. And so if you don't have the ability to feed into those types of campaigns, then you really aren't maximizing the effectiveness of those types of campaigns. That's about it.
Brilliant. I think that actually beautifully ended itself, like why the first party data is the future. Likewise, just to give wrap up with the summary of it. So like Jeff says, and like Lucas mentioned beautifully in the end, so there's no other look back actually. So there is no times of again, everything that Facebook will do, everything Google will do. We just have to install the pixel code. That's not the future anymore. So we have to start collecting the user behavior data as much as possible. And if somebody thinks that, okay, hey, I have email ID, hey, I have phone number, so that's not it. That's not needed also, in fact, to run retargeting campaigns. So start collecting user behavior data, that's anonymous website visitors data. B, start retargeting them, create audiences on both Facebooks and Google and start activating them. So the more audience you push into the ad platforms, the best returns that you can have in the future. So we have to start thinking for the future. We have to start thinking how it is going to be 6 months later and not see for the shortcomings. So that's amazing. And let's quickly see if there are any questions in the chat box. I think there is one that I have in the direct message. So what is the, I think Jeff was talking about mid-funnel. So can you please give me a brief of mid-funnel? There is somebody asked Paul who says how to retarget mid-funnel and what exactly is mid-funnel audience strategies. Do you have something to add here?
Yeah, that's a great call. So mid-funnel, I would say, starts with anybody that visits your website and doesn't take any action, right? That's somebody that, once they come to your website, they're no longer top of the funnel, okay? And then that can take on many forms. So you think about just the natural, just using e-commerce as an example. Somebody comes to your site, but doesn't add to cart. Somebody comes to your site and then adds to cart. That's still on my mind. Might be middle of the funnel. Bottom of the funnel is people that don't purchase. Maybe they add to cart, initiate checkout, and then never finish. So you just look at it in terms of the sequence of events. Now you have the ability for people that come to the site, maybe just look at a few products and then leave. Well, now you have the ability to say, we know which products they looked at, and we're able to feed that information back to Facebook. So if you have a ton of traffic at your e-commerce site and you have one, very popular product that you have a lot of traffic, you can feed that back as a segmented audience and start to target them specifically because they visited that particular product or category. So hopefully that clarifies it a little bit in terms of what middle of the funnel is.
That's great. And there's again a question, amazing insights. How long does it take to set up the entire process to start and running the campaigns? So I think the question means, so how do I see results and how quickly I can see results?
Yeah, here's the interesting thing is that if you think about it, all I do, and what I do is I'm focused on the audiences, right? So I'm not touching any of the other campaigns. What we're doing is we're running an A/B test with the Facebook audience versus what we're able to sync up. So that being said, it can happen pretty quickly. I'd say it's two-step process. Is setting up the tracking, number one, installing the code and getting everything going, but then it's collecting that data and syncing it with Facebook. That's what takes the time. So you can install the code today, but it may take 30 days to sync that up with Facebook and start taking off. Usually that's about what it takes.
I think if anybody out there who wants to start the first party audience strategies, so start installing the Pixel codes. I mean, start if you have any queries, so you can start discussing on the with our first party ad buyers community. So if you want to know how to start the first party data strategies, just come on the community. Just we are all there on the community, so we can start discussing and in deeper how the campaigns work. How do you want to start it? If you are in a Shopify host, this quickly that you can adapt it. If you're in a WooCommerce, etc., etc., so you can do it really quick, and it doesn't take much long and much efforts. So let's thank you so much for everybody joining. So enroll yourself for the community. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Luke, for taking this time. And I look forward to many other panel discussion like this. So let this be the first level of the panel discussion that we are having. So going forward, we'll go into deeper, like we'll talk about Facebook specifically. We can talk about Google Ads. So it was amazing. Thank you for the amazing insight that you're given to us. And I think it was an amazing show. And there are a lot of, I'm having a lot of DMs. It was good, well, and all. Thank you both joining. And it's a good night for me. And have a nice day going forward. Thank you so much for joining once again.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Everybody who's right there, join us to our community. And if you have any questions, please drop it there. Thank you so much. Bye-bye, everybody.